Did your mic on?
I literally just turned it on.
Mic on, Mike? Check it out. Mine's on now. Here, here. Yes, you don't want me to talk. It takes a little while, but
okay, I think I have 9 a.m. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Okay, gentlemen, in front of you have a packet.
don't you have a roll call? First?
Oh, that would be a good idea. Roll call.
Okay, trustees, Henderson,
Here.
Rakestraw,
Here.
Veer,
Here.
Majewski, Supervisor Adams,
Here.
all present.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
We have public comment at the end of the meeting and not at the beginning. Is there a reason for that?
Just got put there.
Because don't we normally have public comment at the beginning?
We normally do. If you want to move it there, we could.
I have no objection to doing that.
Is that a motion?
Is it a motion?
I make a motion that we move it to the beginning.
Second.
Okay, the first, second. All those,
Any
signify by
discussion?
saying aye, I guess.
Yes, keep the system. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Public comment will be first. Any public comment? Yes, none. Okay. Approval of the minutes. We don't have any minutes.
Who composed it, do you know,
Who proposed what?
the agenda?
I did.
So why is the board limited to 1 minute? The public comment is 3 minutes.
It's always done that way. See, it's on our regular board meetings that way.
Yeah, I know, but who decided that?
I think we did it. I
Just 2 years ago.
think the board did it 2 years ago.
Well, I can assure you that it did not when I was on this board.
Well, it might have
Yes,
been-
it did.
Might have been before.
All right, then why don't you find out in the minutes where it came in, okay?
I'll get back with you.
Because I would never have permitted
Yes,
an
It
unequal
was
amount
only
of
Steve,
time
it was. No, it was Steve.
that it was before me.
Before, it was before you.
I don't think so.
I think it was before Steve. Huh? Maybe not. I know it was put in there someplace.
Okay. First page on the revenues listed that we expect to receive. Any questions on those?
Do you have any comments of where the figures came from or why we have them, Craig? Like for parts or whatever?
For what?
Do you have any comments to make on the numbers that are here right now?
For the revenues you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
That's what's estimated to be brought in. I don't know how else to comment on that.
Is this estimated of property tax money that you've got here, or
Correct.
what about, is there a separate estimate of the money that that there's been two different times that $50,000 came out of for the extended bus service for the lectures?
Correct.
Where is that money at?
That's not listed in here because the electors did that. That's just,
Well, but we should know how much money is there. I think it was like $1,250,000. It was over $1 million. And they were subject to take whatever they could that was not on property taxes, but we don't, where's the record of that?
that wasn't put in there because that's separate. See what I'm saying?
But isn't that something we should be looking at? I mean, it's money that's in this township, correct?
Correct, but the electors voted on that.
I know they voted on it, but
It's still part of our budget, even though.
I've never seen that number until all of a sudden they come up once, and I don't know if they once, they come up twice. So I think that a board should know that number's there, and should know how much is available that somebody could get.
Bob, I think I know what you're asking. So if you go to page 2 of the document, I think.
On page 2?
Yeah, this page 2, it says revenue. I'm just looking here, and it says transfer from, on the second line, transfer from fund balances, or balance, and then it has a number for town and general assistance and a total of $802,245. I think the question you ask is, how much fund balance do you have so that you can take the $802,245?
I'm not following. You said it's on page,
I'm sorry, yeah.
on page 2?
Yeah, so it says
It's a
revenue.
Revenue, okay,
And that says
transfer.
transfer from
Okay.
fund balance.
Okay.
So those amounts, it looks like town and general assistance has a total amount of $802,245. These other amounts that are down below, I assume are from taxes, monies that are coming in from taxes. So I think the question where you're trying to get to, Bob, is how much fund balance do you have so that you could take the $802,000 from, and how much do you have left?
Correct.
Oh, approximately 1.4 million is what we have.
So then we weren't given the truth at the meeting where we set the levy as to how much was in reserve.
I never gave you any numbers, so I don't know where that number came from. So.
Well, you're the supervisor.
I didn't get the numbers, so.
Okay, well, now we want the numbers.
It's
Could
about
you please wear your
1.4
mask?
About 1.4
I'm
million.
drinking coffee. Are you gonna take my temperature too?
Yeah, I'd love to.
So then you're saying, Craig, that it's 1.4 million, okay? So what of that number would be property taxes, or what number would be other income, and that income could actually be used and taken from the township from a special electors meeting, correct?
Right. The majority of that 1.4 has all been interest accumulated over the years.
So this is basically interest here?
Basically, it has been interest accumulated over years and years and years.
Of overaccumulation.
Well, why weren't you, I guess I've been here for 4 years, but all of a sudden, I'm happy that the electors came in here to get that money to call my attention to that, because I guess I never thought about that number being there. And it was never brought up to you by that, to advise the board when we set a budget, that we had that kind of money in interest. And if we had that money in interest, then why are we setting a levy to continue with sitting on interest of $1,400,000?
Well, we're spending it all down now. That's what we're doing. We've been continuing to do that.
Well, it's, I think that the board has finally got into that, but so right now though, even though we're continuing spending that, the lectures could very easily call another special meeting and expend something, could they not, out of that money? What would happen if they come in and now they already know that the secret door is there and how to get that money? What's going to stop them from coming to get that money now? Better board.
Okay.
Okay, no comments from the audience, please.
Is that a first warning?
It's first warning. I guess nothing would, Bob, but I don't expect anything like that to happen, so.
Well, I never expected the 2 times to have somebody overrule a board decision to not have the bus service.
Illegal.
So how do we protect that money?
Illegal.
I don't know if there is any way to protect that money.
Well, there is, and Mr. Militello can now tell us some ways.
You would have to put those monies aside for specific things. If that section within that the electors went in for the usage of those monies, I believe in that section regarding the electors, there says monies that are reserved or monies that are received from non-tax pieces, so interest, things like that accumulated, but it's not otherwise budgeted for some other use. So if this board budgets those remaining dollars for something else, then the electors would not be able to use it for something because they're already spoken for.
And with the levy already be set, see,
It's not the.
what runs through my mind is several times I brought up two different instances about that. Oh, they can only take out of that money that would be not coming from property taxes. Never once did you say at one time, Craig, that was basically interest money. Okay, so I was thinking that they were just taking part of that excessive fund, but I didn't realize until now that they actually could have taken more of that.
In theory, yes.
And that's scary to me, how township government works. And I'm sitting here, so to protect that money, we have to, you know, to me, that money should go back to the taxpayers. But I don't think we have an opportunity to do that.
We need to have reserve funds though, in case things happen.
In case of what?
In case something might happen, we need to have some reserve funds.
Well, the people that came with a special meeting weren't worried about that, were they? Did they come in and say, you know something, we're worried about that, taking that money that we might really need it for something that would really happen? They weren't worried about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
And so, if I understand what Mr. Militello said, is that the only way that we can protect that money is say, let's build a building for $1,400,000. And to me, when I look back in the past, I never quite knew exactly what was going on here. I had an idea of it. And this is one of the reasons why township government is the worst type of government there is. And I know people like to live off it, get certain things about it. But when somebody can come in and take that kind of money and build $1 million building without going to a referendum, it's pretty scary. And it's one of the reasons why I continue to fight township government. Because I know this, only I don't know all the parts of it, but I'm getting smarter as I keep asking questions and see how things unfold to see what happens here with these special meetings when a handful of people come in and deal with that kind of money. I don't know if any of the board members got a comment on that, but it's to me, it's plain as day right there.
Well,
Okay,
Craig,
so-
I would say that one of your responsibilities when you have these electors meetings is to come into and inform the people who are making these decisions that are binding, that they might be making some foolhardy moves. And I would like to see you questioning some of this stuff simply from that standpoint. Inform the people who are paying your salary.
I hear you.
So what is the figure? How much money are you sitting on that is this interest amount?
It's about 1.4 million.
You just said one point.
I don't care about the amount, I need an exact amount. I know it fluctuates. Okay, I'm not asking you down to the penny.
Well, that's,
I'd like to know 1.4, what does that mean? All right, what is the amount in a generalized sense? 1.4 million, is that 1.4 flat? 1.35? What? 1.49? I mean, we're here at a budget meeting, we don't have the basic facts.
that's on our, I can get it for you.
Why isn't it in here?
Craig,
Because it has something to do with it.
Craig, could you
Of
also...
course it has everything to do with it, because this is part of the budget. The electors don't carve out money and say, now we're in charge of this, the board go to hell. Aren't we still in charge of that money, Mr. Militello?
Yes. Would Debbie have that number?
I would have that number if you'd like me to go get it.
When you go, could you give one more piece of information?
Sure.
How much interest did we make last year on this 1.4 million?
It wasn't a great deal last year.
This has been a years of I understand that.
Yeah, interest rates are,
But I guess I'm trying to illustrate how long this has been going on.
Well, it's on page
That's a good
3,
question.
I think. Okay, since we don't even know who compiled it. Page 3, a few lines from the bottom.
yeah, that gives you a good, you could see 47,000, 25, 6, 6,500, so you can see it
Well,
dropping.
yeah, it's not a complete fiscal year because there's God knows how many more 2, 3, 4 weeks left to put where that figure is from. It's not a final figure, right?
It shouldn't be, I'll bet, yeah, you're correct.
So there's a problem right off the bat with, there's nothing to compare it to. 2019, 2020, I mean, this is just, just take it for what it is.
Make you feel good. And Stan, you've been pretty quiet about this, but you should be looking at the number and you have some questions on that. I know you supported those numbers going to the bus service, but basically, that's pretty serious stuff.
My thought is, these electors' meetings, I mean, isn't it supposed to be democracy? I mean,
No, it isn't.
hold on a second.
Wait a minute,
The
what?
same people that show up, you know, that support the township, where's the taxpayers that don't support the township? They have every opportunity here to vote that money down, to not use that, to save that taxpayers' money, but they're not here. I mean, my point is they have every opportunity to be here, just like the people that support the township.
They do not have every opportunity.
Yeah,
Let me speak. Are you done?
They don't.
Okay. Tell me one other type of government, county government, state government, the federal government, all these municipalities, where a group of people come in with a handful of people can move that kind of money. Give me an example.
I don't know.
Because there
Because
isn't.
there isn't any. This stuff goes back to 1850. I know you don't like my position in township government. Okay? When you didn't have municipal governments like it is, you didn't have the county government close by. And a few people, there wasn't just a few people on my special thing, was that basically farmers come out of the field and they ran the government. Who would complain about that, okay? We're not that way now. And this is what I've been fighting for 30 years. I'm going to continue to fight it, Stan, is that it's not right. And you know that the people come to those meetings, the general public does not know that, okay? All you have to go is out in the public today, is spend as much time as you want, and ask anybody out there, did you know anything about that special meeting on March 16th? If you find somebody, call them.
Publicized.
Yeah. I understand what's done legally, but you're not part of the board. Thank you. You keep getting in your stand, but you are not part of the board.
And you won't be in a few weeks.
It's funny.
So anyway, it's serious stuff. But if you come up with, I don't know, I could be wrong. But if there's another government where you can have this kind of stuff happen, please let me know, because
It's
I'm
about as close as you can get to communism.
But I still stick by the fact that this is a democracy.
It's not a democracy, it's Republicans. Stan, I gotta cut in.
Anybody can come into this room and vote on that special meeting. And the people that support the taxpayers have every opportunity to be here and do that, and they're not showing up. I mean, it's published in the newspaper.
Why do we even have elections for a board then, okay? We'll just let the electors take guard. Using your false analogy.
This year is, you know, that you have an opportunity for people to come in to overturn the elected board. It's not a democracy, it's a republic, okay? You elect officials, okay? And they make the decisions. This is an opportunity for people to come in, because of the way township government is designed, to overthrow what the elected people have put to make the decisions. And that's what my point is. Tell me another government that you can do that.
Well, another point you have to consider is the reason for these special meetings is when the board it isn't doing the will of the people. Isn't that the purpose of these special elections?
That is your opinion. If you go back, when you part of our group, okay, the Magnificent Seven, we ran on tax revolt, okay? And we've done our job, except that you kind of went off to the side. You don't support it. So that's up to you. You don't support that. We were ran on that. When I got elected, everybody knew in my term what I thought about township government, okay? Everybody knew that. And they also knew what tax revolt meant. It didn't mean to continue to throw the money out the window.
And I supported you in that tax revolt. My whole point in being here was to have this operation run more efficiently, pay the taxpayers money, not to destroy it, okay?
Well, you know, everything that I brought up, that I got on it, was not destroying it. I focused on what were the mandated. We didn't take anything out. Since I've been on this board, that's a mandated duty.
I understand that.
Okay, and that's what the whole thing was about.
This is so much more complicated than that, Stan. We really, all government,
Are we
every
really having a
single,
debate here?
Will you
Are we
please
working
instruct
on-
the clerk?
Are we
not-
working on the
not to
budget, or are we
interrupt
working on the
Okay,
debate?
clerk, do not interrupt, please.
all government, every single segment of government is out of control, including the township. And that's the reason why we held steadfast in fighting this thing, so that at least the taxpayers get a little relief in one area of their tax load. And I will not back down from that. It's one of the proudest things I've ever done in my life, is be standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. If you say one more word, I would ask that he be taken out of this meeting.
He's out of order. Why can't you restore order?
Well, you're out of order every 5 minutes, you idiot.
Stay in order. Okay.
Bob, I understand what you're saying about these unfunded mandates, but, you know, what happens, there's, okay, the ball fields, everything else, all that's unfunded. But the thing is, we're stuck with it. What are we gonna do with it? Let it go to seed?
Okay.
You know,
I want to get back to the budget. You're getting off
Okay,
the
let's
point.
go back to the budget.
All right, so who compiled this budget?
I did.
Totally?
Mm-hmm.
Alone?
Yeah.
Okay, where are the other past years for any comparison?
Well, let's hear what the number, you asked for a number, let's get the
Yes, for
number.
that
first.
number. Right now, it's $1,459,735.97.
How much, seven what?
$135.97.
That's really quite over.
And how does it
60,000 over
fluctuate?
the 1.4.
Is that due to, I mean, does it go up by 20,000 every week or down?
No.
What's the fluctuation?
Last year, we only received $25,000 interest. That would be it.
You mean in 2021?
Correct. Or 2021. It's right here on your sheet. And that's going down with interest rates going down.
I'm confused. You say that this year.
I'm sorry, this year we've only got $6,799.80. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the year before that.
Okay. Okay.
You mean the $45,000 figure from 1920?
Right, it's continually go down because interest rates are going down.
Well, plus there should be less money
Correct.
collecting interest because
Correct.
we've tried to reduce the
Correct. And
the surplus.
We have been reducing the surplus over the years.
Well, here's the thing about this, and it's very irritating for me, because it means that we've been overtaxing people to an extreme, and we're only picking up $6,000 in interest this year compared to 1.459 or whatever. That just indicates that this has been going on for years and years and years, doesn't it?
Including years you were on the board as a trustee, right, Mr. Adam?
Yes.
So, as far as an institutional memory of where everything happened, how long were you on the board before your appointment as supervisor?
I don't know, Steve. 15, 16 years, something like that.
So now we're talking about 20-plus years that you've been on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long span.
But I think that the question is gonna come down is what are our options to protect that money? And I think what I just heard, there's no option, there's just one way to do it, that would be set aside for future expenses, correct? Is that correct?
Well, we're spending a bunch of it down, guys, this year.
So how much is coming off of that?
$800,000.
800,000? So you're still sitting with, is it 800,000 even or close still? Or?
802,245.
And that's how much you're pulling down for this year's budget,
Correct.
out of that 1.45.
Correct.
But that's a figure we'll decide on here in our board, in our budget meeting. Correct?
Correct.
So,
But it needs to be spent down, so.
no, it's because you're spending at the same rate. You're keeping everything at the same. What have you cut?
We cut a bunch of stuff last year, Steve. We're down to the minimum amount of personnel that we need at this point in time.
Well, let's go into that. As far as the town goes, how many employees work for the township?
3 full-time and 1 part-time.
And is this part-time person a shared person with the road district?
No,
So when you say part-time, can we say that's half-time?
yes, half-time.
And this includes the park district people?
No, they're.
Well, see, that's what I'm
That's
getting
not what
at.
you asked me. You asked me about, I thought you were asking about administration.
I'm asking about the township. How many employees does the township have
Hey, Steve,
as of today?
before we get into that, can I just cut you? I'm still concerned, basically, we're still looking at almost, say, 660, almost, that fund is still gonna have 668,000, okay? That is still open for a special, for somebody to come in with electricity to get into that. How do we protect that?
Mr.
I don't wanna build another building, we've got plenty here.
You have two options. You can build into your budget and appropriation ordinance 668,000, whatever that number is, into additional expenses, whether it's computer upgrades that needed, whatever this board decides that needs to be done around the township, putting that in the budget, number one. Number two, the other idea would be to make a statement in the budget and appropriation ordinance that says the monies that we're spending, the first amount of monies that we're spending is going to be these monies, and then any remaining monies are going to be these monies put into fund balance. If that makes any sense.
It does, well, Craig, can we just put that off, and I'm certainly got that number down. And our next budget meeting, would you come in with some recommendations on how we can protect that money?
Sure, we can put that aside for,
And then we can go on with the budget.
sure.
To me, at that time, that's a major concern of mine, right, when I see that number.
Well, Mr. Militao, how does this differ from the lockbox? When you earmark funds for certain expenses?
Yeah, earmarked funds, you'd be earmarking it for specific things, and then the electors would not be able to use it because in the language of that section, it says something that's not otherwise provided for, and now you've now provided for it. What I was suggesting is putting language in, if you didn't want to budget for that amount, specifically say, we are spending all the interest money that we have on our items that we're spending this year. And so any monies that are then saved would be money saved from taxes.
I like that sound of that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then it's clear in the budget, you're saying, we've spent every cent from monies that we've reserved. So in essence, in essence, seriously, if you have $1,459,000, you spend $1,459,000, and whatever you decide for your budget, and whatever monies then are left over are monies from taxes.
So that's a separate clause that gets added into the
Yes.
budget resolution?
It would have to be put in, yes. You'd want to make it very clear in the budget that these are revenues that are using, and you'd want to make sure that you spell it out. We have X amount of dollars of total fund balance. We anticipate X amount of dollars in revenues to be received in taxes. It is desirous of the board to spend X amount of dollars of fund balance towards current operating budget of X amount, and whatever remaining balances are from taxes.
Well, I'd like to, there might be something that Greg knows about the operation that we don't, and he's the
Full-time person.
well, he's the one that should be giving us some recommendations. I'd like to have a think about that. He might come in the next meeting of areas that he thinks that some of the money could go for that in the future. So,
And then you would just budget for it.
and then we'd look at our next budget meeting.
Well, there's no reason we can't do both.
I have a question. You want to table this? Is that a motion to table it? If it is, I need a second.
No.
We're not there yet.
There was no motion, it's just discussion.
All right, nothing's gonna be tabled. This is the.
Well, you just asked him to table that 1.4 till
No,
next meeting.
I didn't ask it, no. I asked for the next budget meeting with the supervisor, come in with some recommendations, and then we'll go with his recommendations, if he's got some, and along with Mr. Metallicek.
And
So I don't want to table the budget here, I just want to,
No, I said about the 1.4 million.
I think it was just discussion.
it's not a motion.
so we can ask Mr. Milto to prepare the clause, so we'll have it. Okay. And then it's a two-pronged measure. We'll be having to spend out of the interest clause
Well, we're spending the job.
while we're making certain budgetary allotments for things that must be purchased
Correct.
during the year. And that's what Mr. Adams will be working on.
Well, I have a question. The rules for these electors meetings, is that a local law or is that a state law? It's a state law. So I
Every
mean,
township can do that.
Pardon?
Every township can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, 1,000
But I mean, there's
can do the same thing.
nothing we could do in this room to change that, change that law.
No.
Well,
Yes.
there actually
It's one of the-
are, when the electors violate state law, like they did with the budget, with the compensation increases, incomplete contravention of the board's decision and in violation of,
Well, that was in violation of law, so that's why.
well, it's in violation of several, well, at least two
Right.
separate statutes.
I think that was double.
So then how do you want to proceed with the rest of it? Just go down line item after line item, or how do you want to do it?
Maybe we could just get through administration today then?
Well, I got a question, if that's good. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, go right ahead.
My question is that we have $29,148.54 that will go to the road commissioner.
That's half the salary that was lower.
Okay, so if you double that, that's $58,297.08.
I
And the
believe.
salary is $45,000.
What page are you on now?
Pardon me? Just on administration, on the second line, it says salaries elected, that's $70,000. And the next line down, it says, it's page 4, I'm sorry, it's page 4. If you look where it says it says higher, I call them road commissioners, but it's road commissioner, they got a proposed salary of $29,148.54, which I know that's half, okay? So if you double that, it's $58,000, but the salary is set at $45,000, so why would it not number be that?
I'm figuring that out right now.
Okay.
So why would we be paying the salary for the road commissioner out of the town fund?
Well, that's been answered a long time ago.
Township code, they have to pay half out of the,
Well, I understand that, but why are we talking about the other half of his salary?
the other half comes out of the road.
Okay, but on the town fund part of what we're trying to do is my question.
I can answer that.
I understand that.
I can answer that, because we discussed it one other time, and that would be that, actually it's set up that it would all have to come out of our budget. But somehow the road commissioner, am I correct about that?
You're
That
correct.
the road commissioner said that he would take half. He doesn't have to, but he's given, it's how you switch money around.
He could take it all out of the town.
Yes.
But the point is that there's more money set aside a budget here
It's half of
than what the salary is.
22.5.
Correct. For the elected officials, there's 4 more pay periods that are added in at the regular rate now, at the current rate.
There's 4 additional pay periods.
Correct. Goes through May. You have April, May, there's 4 more that need to be paid out.
So what she's saying is, since the annual, your annual fiscal year starts April 1st, so since it starts April 1st, and these new salaries don't kick in until
Until May 17th.
May 17th, there's how many?
There's 4.
4 pay periods between April 1st and that time period
Correct.
at the higher rate.
At the higher rate,
And-
or at the current rate.
And so if I take 22,500 minus 29,148.54, approximately 6,648 is the township's difference of
That's the
those
difference
values.
between what the new one's gonna be going into effect and what's currently,
Okay.
that they're required to get until they're done with.
Oh, but there's the differences, I got it.
So
So until they're done,
I understand what you're saying.
But it's still an incorrect amount.
So the issue would be how much is he currently making, and finding out what that would be over 3 payment periods, and then taking half of that and applying that number to it.
Half of the 45.
correct.
After we get the 4 pay periods out of the way, the balance of that should be 1/2 of 45,000.
Correct, so
Plus
that,
those 4 pay periods.
so it'd be 22,500 plus those 4 pay periods. 22,
So this would be 22,000, this figure should be corrected to 22,000?
No, because we got,
plus the 4 pay periods, whatever those 4
Oh.
pay periods are.
Well, then that's the number we should see in the corrected budget then, right?
no,
Or are you saying this is the correct number?
Debbie's saying it's the correct number.
It's the correct number?
But to verify Debbie's correct number, you'd want to know what the current salary is divided by the number of pay periods, so you
Which
get
I think
the
is 73 or
which
something.
is whatever,
Huh? What?
whatever you said.
I think it's 73, but whatever, but we need that extra number if we're gonna put that in there.
So,
And that was an accurate number that was put.
so what Debbie's saying is there's approximately $6,000 of additional funds. I'll get you the exact number. There's approximately $6,648.54 of prior salary amounts added to.
So if you take it off, then it leaves like 23,000.
So if you take 66, 48, 50, 68.
I got it, it's
yeah.
close, yeah, I got it. So thanks for the explanation of the number.
Can we go back to page 2, please? I think there's a couple questions I have that we would like to see addressed before we go on. Yes. Okay, now, several months back, we set the levy, and can somebody refresh me?
You set the levy at 750,000.
750.
Correct.
Okay, now that is, are we collecting the taxes? Now you have 798,200 $200. Is that last year's taxes?
No, that's total revenue that we're gonna get, which
Okay.
comes from page 2.
Okay,
Next page.
from the levy that we set 3 months ago or 2 months ago.
It's not just from the levy, it's from other things, no, like replacement tank. You're correct.
Okay, so you're going to withdraw 736,000, oh,
We're
737.
take that from reserve funds, which
Yeah,
are all
okay.
interesting, and spend it down.
Okay, now,
And that further protects anybody from doing anything.
okay, now, that means the 1.459 is going to be reduced by 736,000, correct?
No, it's added to that.
No, I mean, what we have, you're
Oh,
adding.
1.4, yes, it's reduced, yes.
Okay, now, what is your plan as the director of finance for this thing? The year after, when there's only 700,000, how do you, I guess, how do you balance the books?
We'll have to address that when we get to that.
That's the next board
It's
decision.
next board's decision.
Okay, now, on this levy that we set a couple months back, how much can that be raised legally without a referendum?
Can't.
Well, you got 5% or something like that, right?
You can't raise it, you said it. I can't raise the 5%, it can't be raised.
Okay.
Oh, you mean the next time around?
Yeah, you got cost of living.
No,
It's,
No, there's nothing to be raised for this coming year.
It's set, right?
It's set.
well, I understand, but what I'm saying is the year after that, when
It's a
you're-
new board's decision. Yeah. It's a limit of 5%.
okay, that's what I'm trying to get at. There is a way to raise that levy by a certain percentage.
Correct.
Okay, and how much is that?
It's 5% or the CPI, whatever's lesser, or whatever's
Whichever's
whatever's
highest.
lesser. So it's whatever's lesser. So if the CPI is 2%, it's 2%, not 5%. But the issue is the purposes of a black, they call it a black box. When you levy more than 5%, you have to do a black box, put it in the paper. There's certain hearings and whatnot, but in order to, that doesn't even mean that you can get that money. In order to get those additional funds, you have to put it to a resolution, and the electors would have to vote on that.
the electors or the board?
No, the
Not
electors,
the elect- in a referendum.
in a referendum, you'd have to put that to referendum, and the electors would have to vote on that increase.
Okay, great, then my next question is, have you considered it deeply enough that you can make a recommendation for the next board as to what you're going to do without drawing that excess down to zero? What do you think is, I'm sure you've had to think about this. What is your plan?
I'm just trying to get through a year at a time. I don't know if you thought about that.
Well, I think you gotta
Well, you're
plan
uncontested supervisor, okay, so.
You have to plan short term and you have to plan long term. And I'm
It's going to be
asking,
very difficult to go along after the following year.
Because they're not actually making any cuts. They're just,
well, that's the
they're
problem.
just blowing
I think,
through the
is
reserve, okay?
that, you know,
So have we ever had a truth and taxation hearing in this township?
Yes,
When?
I believe you did. You would have had to have had it probably 10 years ago. Probably 10 years ago.
I don't recall. I don't recall.
I know I didn't do the black boxes. I believe the supervisor at the time, which would have been Donna, probably did it.
What was that jump? Come on, you're on the board. I'm not asking for the penny amount.
I don't remember, Steve. It was years and years ago.
Well, hey, come on.
I don't remember. It was, I don't know how many years ago that was.
Well, it's about 10 years ago.
I don't remember.
And then I'm asking the clerk to find out what it was. Will you do that?
Yes.
When the last truth and taxation hearings were ever conducted, in Mchenry Township. What if it turns out they never really did it? They just raised it up.
No, the county clerk won't let you do that, so, what actually happens is, so the levy comes out, everybody does their levy before the end of the last Tuesday in December, and then now, the county clerk is then issuing, what they call this extension worksheets, saying, these are the monies that you've requested, we're just confirming that this is what it was, but during that process, they won't increase or put any of that on there unless they actually submit the Black Fox publication to the county as far as showing proof that it was in fact done. That you actually have to file a certification.
Well, it just means there's something published, not that there's any particular action taken.
No, so what would have to happen is that's just a publication saying, we're gonna have a hearing. We, meaning the township's gonna have a hearing, a public hearing, in order to discuss the proposed increase. They have a public hearing, then the board adopts whatever the levy is that's then approved. The levy's then filed, regardless, so even if the township board asked for 15% increase, let's just say, the board asked for 15% increase, they're not necessarily going to get the 50% increase because what there's called is a limiting rate, and I'll be more than happy to bring examples of to kind of explain what I'm talking about. So you have actually in your tax rate, you have max rates. So there's max rates within in government that says you can't levy more than this max rate. But then there's also what is called a limiting rate. A limiting rate says after all the calculations are done, your total levy can't exceed this limiting rate. And that's part of what is called the property tax extension limitation rate. And sometimes people refer to it as PTEL. And PTEL is this calculation that says this number is now calculated, so whatever you've asked for is going to be reduced by this PTEL number. And so, and I can give you the extension worksheet so you can see what that looks like. So even if the township asked for 15%, 20% more, they'll never get it because they're going to still be limited by this PTEL rate. And that PTEL rate is allowed, you're only going to be able to get whatever the consumer price index. Now, in order to increase that, you'd have to put that to a resolution or a referendum so that the electors could vote on increasing that a certain percentage over the PTEL rate. Or
Well, it's not the electors, it would be the general public.
the general public within the township.
On the ballot box.
Yes. What I'll do is actually for the next budget appropriation or meeting, I'll bring the last few years extension worksheets so you can, I can explain that to you more in detail if you want to know.
I would like to, thank you.
So, where are the federal stimulus funds?
We don't have any federal stimulus funds.
We never applied for them?
We're not getting it.
There is a big line item for municipalities of various kinds in state government. Some went to the states to distribute out, some went directly to certain entities like big cities, certain counties.
I don't know any townships that got those monies.
Well, I'm not, is it? Well, Illinois certainly got a big handout to be distributed.
I understand that, Steve, but
So where does that show up on?
we're not getting it that I'm aware of.
Well, they talked about it at TOI. It's in their magazine. All these townships are bragging about how much money they got from the Fed.
But we didn't get it.
Well, you don't, apparently you don't get it if you don't apply for it. So you're telling us that there's no application made of any kind to any federal or state entity for these federal funds that were part of that $3 trillion, or
No.
1.9 trillion,
Not from
whatever
this
it's
township, there was none. No.
Well, Mr. so
Yeah, so what I would do, if this board wants to do it, is add a line item in here for, under cash revenues, because that's where you put the revenue, is put state or federal stimulus or PPP or whatever you want classification, and I would have the township investigate application to whatever available federal or state funds that may be available. And if that's the case, then I suspect those funds will be received within this fiscal year, so it would be very appropriate to have a revenue line item for those revenue dollars.
Agreed.
So you do that?
Sure.
I have a concern about that because what we're doing, if we apply for these funds and receive them, we're extending our problem for finances to the state or to the federal level, which makes it tough for everybody else too. I guess I just, somehow I'm not missing the connection that we keep taking money from other bureaucracies, and somehow that's okay when we use it locally, but when it's being paid by the people of this country or this state, we're just passing the buck on. It's typical use of numbers
I understand where you're coming from.
yeah, it's just.
It's really the debt that's being.
Yeah, yeah.
It isn't.
But also the people in the township are paid into that fund too.
But it's such a small fraction, Bob.
Oh, no, this will be a lot. Illinois is gonna get a lot if it hasn't already. Okay, and Wakanda Township, how did they get it?
Did they get some? I don't even know.
Well, it's come up in their political races that they're proud of it. Okay? So, I can't understand how, we're not a township that's situated on one of the Aleutian Island chains. I can't understand how this doesn't get out. Do you ever deal with other supervisors?
Sure, I talked to them, but there was no discussion about this stimulus money they talked about.
Well, could I ask another
I don't even
question?
know if we can apply, it may be too late.
And it's still on page 2. The administrative costs, $605,256. Now, that is salaries.
No. It's everything we have to pay for. Maintenance, telephones.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what town actually means. Does town include everybody who isn't employed by the road district? That's employed by the township? Or parks somehow, this other thing?
Oh, I'm sorry, town would be everything. Other than the road district.
So the parks and facilities is
And
not
the
included?
assessor's office is in.
It's if you're looking at that page, it's.
Yeah, but it's a different line item.
But it's part of his total here though.
Okay.
What he was
And the
responsible.
assessor's office is on there too.
So the cost to do general assistance is $118,000?
Correct.
And how much are we doling out in general assistance?
Last year, I could put that down, Mike, for 11 months, we put out $13,349.74.
So we're spending $118,000 to dole out. How much was it again?
Say 13,400.
And that's only if the 118,000 figure is really accurate. How do you come to that figure, 118,271?
In the last month, you only had.
No, let's straighten that out first.
I know, only 2 clients.
No, all right, so you've got it down
Money
here,
last time.
118,271 for general assistance, okay?
Correct.
I want to know how you arrived
I'm
at
getting
that.
to that stage.
The general assistance is one of the biggest rip-offs there is. in the general public.
Yeah, but we're settled, but
Thinks that.
We're settled with that. I agree, it doesn't pay for itself.
No, it does not.
no, it doesn't just pay for itself. If a charity did that and ran administrative costs to give out so little, they would be under probably some criminal investigation. So I'm just trying to figure out if that $118,000 figure is even accurate.
It comes from page 13, the last page. We're budgeting 50,000 because you never know in a year what's going to happen with general assistance.
But you look at you pretty much know what's gonna happen. Most
You
people-
don't know every year. You could have a year where you're paying out a lot.
Well, I agree with the supervisor on that point, okay? There should be some
I still think.
kind
you're asking
of
for
a
too much.
reserve for GA. And that can be put into this lockbox thing, right?
Well, you have 115,271. You only levied for 50,000 for general assistance. So you levied for 50,000 for general assistance, and in your transfer, you say you're transferring 65,271. I have a question, is of the total fund balances, what's our fund balance? And I think you've answered that question of what 1,400,000 for the town fund, but is there a fund balance for the general assistance that the 65,271 is coming off of? Because then that goes to Steve's point as far as what remaining balances, if any, does the town fund have, because, or the general assistance fund have, because in essence, I'm not sure that you have any general assistance fund.
Right, we can always take money from the reserve and put it into that lockbox for the general assistance fund, right?
Assuming you have general assistance fund, and I guess I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, right. Do we have one?
Yeah, we have funds in general assistance. It's quite a bit.
No, is there a demarcated fund just for general assistance?
You were saying 400?
Yeah, there's $400,000.
So their general assistance has $400,000, so.
Wow. I wish you would have known that. We did
Well, that's been there for a year,
General assistance has a fund balance of 400,000?
it does.
Where does that show up on this budget?
I don't think it does.
And so you just told me you don't know what's gonna happen. I mean,
Well, general assistance can't be moved anywhere.
but you don't have to keep adding money into it.
Yeah, we didn't have, we have a line item in the.
The last month, you had two clients that got money, then you had probably 5 or 6 months that 3 qualified. You had, and then last winter you had a couple of months there where you had like 6, maybe 8 people qualified. But when you look at the
But
people.
there used to be emergency assistance in there too, and that got taken out, so they used to spend it.
No, I'm going by, this number I just gave you is the number you gave us the last month in the budget of what was actually spent for 11 months
I agree with you.
to general assistance, that was it.
Right. But you had emergency assistance for a period of time that was spent also.
But that would not come out of that money.
Yeah, it does.
So emergency assistance
No,
comes
because
out of general.
you showed a
It does.
line item, it says general assistance to 13,000, it didn't say anything about.
Your emergency assistance also comes out of the general assistance.
You have another line item for that, don't you?
Can you guys?
But I
It comes out of those.
I think there's another line
It
item.
comes out of those funds.
Because I'm gonna move him, because Daryl won't wear his mask. Okay. Stand moving.
Well, anyway, now we found out that you want $50,000 this year. We're kind of jumping ahead where we are, but and then we find out there's $400,000 sitting in that fund, they can't go anyplace there. And you say you don't know what is gonna happen, well, I wonder how many townships in the state that would have that kind of money sitting in a general system fund?
We're
And
not
if they
really
do,
concerned with them.
Oh.
It's just the way things are hidden from the board. Whether it's by design or not.
Not by design.
All right, well, then, at the next meeting, we need to know exactly how much is in the general assistance fund and what goes into it, and what can come out of it.
Emergency assistance can come out of it, besides the general assistance.
What else can be used to tap into that?
Whatever expense, the expenses that are in that program.
Well, emergency assistance is defunct, right? Isn't it? It's
Well,
gone.
this board has put an end to it.
We know what's gonna happen.
Emergency system, that's state law, you can't get rid of that one.
No, I thought that was the general assistance.
General system,
no.
yeah. Emergency system is gone.
Right, yeah, that's what I
That's gone,
said.
emergency, yeah, it's gonna be, yeah.
Yeah.
But general assistance, that's a state law, we gotta keep that.
But then why are we proposing $50,000 for general assistance when there's $400,000?
That's a great question. And when I asked that question earlier before we found 400,000, supervisor said we don't know what we're gonna run into. That's,
Yeah, well, we
now
didn't
you're
know
getting
what it
to
was that.
now we're getting into the question.
I have another question on page 2, on the revenue, $53,000 for general assistance. Where does that money come from? That's the revenue. Is that from the federal government?
This is on page 2?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it, I'm sorry.
Right, yeah.
Well, that's the 50,000 that you,
53,000.
It says 53.
the 3,000, there must be interest probably.
So that would be interest money, that 53,000?
No, not the whole 53,000, just 3,000.
All right,
But then where's the 50?
50 is what you,
The 50 is in there, but you could be,
It's from the levy. It's the levy. The levy
Oh, okay, all right.
that you did in December.
so why is certain interest put in?
some of that could be for elder replacement tax too.
because it's monies that are in GA, they can't be taken out of GA.
So you're telling me there's
What?
a separate bank account for GA, or a bank account?
Right here. So 50 is tax, and 3 is other than that. Property tax.
I gotta think about this, because there's a separate bank account, there's a separate line item for it.
Yeah, I know, but in this calculation of 3,000 interest is just too, it's just, it would be extremely unlikely for there to be $3,000 interest for that particular amount. Okay.
Just for clarification, you have $1,000 for interest in your report here. $1,000 for interest
Okay,
and
maybe I'm not-
$2,000 for replacement tax.
Oh, there it is, I'm
And
sorry.
so your total is
There it is.
50,000 for your.
I should have looked at the sheet, I'm sorry, on page 13. $2,000 still in replacement tax.
Okay, yeah.
And then the 1,000 is interest.
But who decides that that's going to go to general, this is the general assistance budget, okay. Where's the other interest from? What happened to the other interest? Why is only 1,000 in there for interest income?
Because that's all we received.
And I'm trying to figure out, is there a single bank account for general assistance?
I do not believe so.
Well, then how is it determined that $1,000 goes into the general assistance budget from that accumulated interest from other things?
Well, I would think that interest would have to come off to the 400,000 or the total numbers from your fund balance, right?
Correct.
So So maybe what Steve says, what would that correct number be? As opposed to being rounded up. But again, it's a budget, so it could be, but I don't know. Would you get $1,000 off of 400,000 now?
Nowadays, that's probably all you're getting.
Huh?
That's probably all you're getting nowadays.
Yeah, right. So I don't think that interest number is too far off.
Well, how long will it take to get the actuals for the end of the fiscal year?
It'll be at least another couple weeks. And I'd like to get the actuals before we go any further, you know what I'm saying? Because we can't really tell. That's part of the problem with this budgeting process. We can't tell until we got the actuals in there. Do you understand what I'm saying, Steve? Do you agree with me?
Well, we can do the broad strokes in advance. Okay? Yeah, I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's hard to determine without having.
It should all be available within a week.
Well, it's a big process to close all the books and get everything done. We're still paying bills.
Well, how was this accomplished 4 years ago by the last term of the?
We never had final numbers. We got the final numbers before we ever made all our decisions. If you recall,
We're just dealing with the budget numbers.
I'm talking about 4 years ago.
4 years.
The last board before us, how did they do it?
I believe
You were on it.
yeah. I believe we waited for final numbers before we made any real decisions.
Oh, no, you did it before the new board came in.
Yeah, but we probably, maybe we made estimates. I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, then we'll do the same thing. It's not anything magical.
Okay.
I have another question, please.
Mm-hmm.
Under administration, on page 2, under GA, you have $118,271.
That's the total when you add those two numbers together.
The total of what two numbers?
The 53 and the 65, 271.
Okay, what does that actually, is that used for, the 118,000?
Look at your last page.
Down here, general assistance is down here.
Well, how much of your salary is included into that? I mean, it's the one thing that you're charged by statute to actually do. None?
I don't think there's any money in there, but I do supervise some of that.
So who are these two part-time people? Why is it two part-time and not one full-time?
Well, actually, we only have one part-time at the current moment. We really need another one. And that was the same in the budget last year. We never hired another part-time. We really need one because the amount of paperwork involved in general assistance is astronomical. I know we don't give out a lot of money, but it takes hours and hours and hours to do all that paperwork for every applicant.
Which is why all these other states don't do it. Illinois is the only one.
I'm not
Even the ones that still have townships.
Steve, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it takes hours and hours. It takes much more to administer it than to give out. I will not disagree with that.
Well, you can't
It's history.
disagree with that. It's a fact.
It's a fact.
But the interesting part is, nobody that's about these 1,043 township governments, all these supervisors, that's their main duty. And why aren't they going down to Springfield, TOI, and say, TOI, get rid of this? That's my question, but they don't do it because it continues and it continues and continues. And then it goes out in the public, so you can't change township because all these people will be on the street without any money and they're not getting any money.
All right.
It's just, I don't know,
It's a whole big formula to, outside of our.
Well, it's what I continue to say, I keep fighting this thing, it does not make dollar sense.
All right, so you're saying that there's really only one person now doing it? Who's that?
Debbie does part-time on that.
But actually, a supervisor, that's supposed to be your total job, isn't
I
it?
do part-time too, but it's not.
I know, but generally, if you read what comes out of the TOI, or I think about township, it says the supervisor has one mandated duty, it's general assistance.
But that's not the only duties I have, though.
I know, I'm just, everybody kind of points to Bobby Anderson and all this stuff here, he's all the way out and stuff like that. I'm just going about what it says by law, okay?
I understand.
The law says that the supervisor has one mandated duty, and that's general assistance, and we stop you getting involved going up into Richmond Township and Burton Township.
Right.
And they've got a paid supervisor up there, they must not be doing anything.
We don't do that.
I know that, but I'm just saying an example of
Are you planning on doing?
what you see what goes on here.
I'm not fine.
All right, well, to get an accurate idea of things, it seems to me some fraction of your salary should be attributable to this expenses for general assistance. So now the question is, how much of your time do you actually spend on general assistance?
Probably a third.
A third.
Not a third, no. It's less than that.
So
I'd have to figure it out.
you've been doing it for more than 4 years. 10 hours a week?
I think that's fair. 10 hours.
Then 10%,
Okay.
or sorry, then a quarter of the salary should be on that.
Well, you didn't really ask the real question. The real question is, why is the supervisor doing it totally?
Why is the what?
Why is, the state law said the supervisor has one mandated duty, general assistance, so why isn't the supervisor just totally doing general assistance?
Well, to be fair, he does have another mandated duty,
I do have lots of other
which
mandates.
is to be the treasurer for the
Right, and
road
that's
district.
that's the majority of my time, okay?
Huh?
That's the majority of my time, and it takes lots and lots of time.
Well, and so then, if we're going to look into what the administrative cost is of general assistance, then whatever you are putting in, your time should be in that figure, so people can look at it and say, oh, you're giving out $50,000, and this is what the total administrative cost is.
Yeah.
We don't have that number
And
yet.
it's false. It's a false information to the public because it does not accurately reflect what the true cost is, which we now know is more than $118,000.
Correct.
So let's have the next budget come in with a true cost of what your benefits, what your fair salary is, what the taxpayer costed you, how much of that goes into general assistance. That's the number we should see there. And that would be part of the administrative cost of putting out that money.
I'm not ascribing any conscious concealment on your part, okay?
No.
But you can understand where I'm coming from.
I do understand.
We're trying, and that's another reason why the consolidation of the road district into the if you're spending, like you say, more than half your time on the road district, okay? Being the treasurer of the road district, which you only get 1,000, right? That's capped by the state law.
Correct.
If that's true, that means something's really wrong with the system.
Completely, in the whole state. I mean, you really.
Right, not here, not because of you, it's just the way the system
Until there's some people,
existed untouchable after the Civil War.
until there are people who are willing to stand up and try to find the answers to all these questions, it's just going to continue to be perpetually put on.
Thank you, Mike. Because the system itself will not change it, because I already told you the example, they haven't changed it. They know about it, but they have not made any effort to change it.
And there's no desire.
And they're not gonna until it's pushed from the outside, when somebody takes all the heat. But it's gotta be done.
You know, Craig, if I could add this. Debbie's duties as leading the effort to do this, is there any way of figuring out what her duty is as being this lead person? Then if you have any other people who are working with you on this effort, what their job is, so that we have a better idea of what your job is in the time that you're spending. Is that possible?
The majority of my time is spent with financial stuff, I can tell you.
But that's what I'm getting at.
I mean,
If we have assigned duties and what they are
Right.
and how much time
Right.
they spend on it, we have an idea of what your effort is in this.
Right, I understand what you're saying.
You know, and here's another thing, I might be, way off on this, but if we're spending $50,000 for general assistance, and it's costing us, and we know it's gonna be more than $118,000 now.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any way that we can condone this to the people who are paying these bills, that we are being efficient in getting this $50,000 out to the public? If it's costing us, maybe, it might be $130,000 or $140,000 to spend 50. That just seems, it's so absurd, I don't get it.
Mike, I don't disagree with you, it's just the way the laws and everything's written about general assistance. I'm not the one that created it.
Okay, so why can't we be a little more forward-thinking and say, we have $50,000, let's find an agency that we can take the general information from somebody who's looking for assistance and pass it on to them and let them spend it.
We legally can't do that.
Then why can't we change the law?
And that has to be changed in spring.
Might draft a letter, bring it to the board, and send it to one of ours, like I'm doing the next meeting. As a board member, you can put your thoughts together, you can board support possibly, write a letter.
Okay.
And then, and ask Craig to put it on the agenda.
Does anybody feel that I'm out of line in asking for
As long as
this?
so-
The other thing is, I don't know if any other agency is gonna take this on, you just understand.
The thing of it is, Mike, is that.
Well, we'll never know.
It'll
unless we
be-
ask.
Forget,
It could be privatized rather easily.
Yeah.
It's
The
what
whole
they did
thing,
in
Mike,
Indiana.
is the general system needs to be a general subject in the state, the law is gonna be changed, it's no longer cost effective to handle it, okay?
I'm just at a loss as to the amount of time. Okay, now, just say you have an average of 10 people a month
Correct.
applying for general
Okay.
assistance,
Here's
okay? How on earth do you alone spend 40 hours a month doing it? And then that's half of Debbie's time. These applications, I mean, what are they, like background checks to
No.
be on the National Security Council?
Well, there's constant, they fill out application, and they gotta get forms back to us, all kinds of information, they don't get it back to us, there's phone calls.
Okay,
there's
how much
information.
time, how much is the average amount of time it takes to service the average application?
I'd have to look into that and get back to you. It
You
takes-
can give me a general idea. You've been doing it for how many years?
Steve, I don't know off the top of my head, let me.
This isn't anything off the top of your
I'd
head.
rather get a informed answer for you. It could take hours, one case could take hours and hours and hours and hours.
From what you're telling me, okay, 2 people, part-time, I assume it's like a half-time, although it probably.
And there's also tons of calls that people that don't qualify for general assistance, that we have to go through all this. You're seeing 5 people that qualify or whatever.
Yeah, do you take the call?
I take some of them, yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about over 100 hours a week between the 2 part-time and you, okay? It just doesn't make any sense.
There could be 100 calls a week. Okay, there's them, how many calls are there?
Yeah, well, you say it could be 100 calls, I'm looking at your sheet
What
for
does
the
it say
last
right there?
year. You go 19 calls in April of 2020 and COVID.
That's, things kind of shut down.
All right, well, the big month was October, you had 29 calls. Okay, I'm looking at what you created.
Those are the calls we returned, I think.
The total for, what do you mean the total calls you returned? You mean you're not returning calls?
No, that's not what I meant.
All right, look, you nicely encapsulated the total. For the last fiscal year minus March, 11 months, you got 175 total calls. I assume a call doesn't take an hour.
Yes, not the They could, they very well could, because you gotta find out all kinds of information.
What, all right, then the calls you say you've handled, how long does it take?
It could take,
I don't say how long it could take, what's the average amount of calls? You say, look at the website, bring all that stuff in and get in here, right? I mean, what is there to talk about?
there's lots of things to talk about. You gotta find out what their needs are, first of all. We're also referring people.
They write all that down.
They don't write
Do
it
they
all.
fill out the application, or does
They
it all
do,
handled by
but-
phone?
It starts by phone, then they fill out an application. There's all kinds of information you have to get from that application. You have to bring in birth certificates. They have to bring in all kinds of information. And then there's calling them back because they don't have the stuff in here. It's a very
You're
involved.
talking about the last, since the start of this year, you're talking about a grand total of 3 people a month.
That's not how many people we're talking to, though. That's how many people qualify.
So what you're just saying is the vast majority of people do not qualify.
I am saying that, yes.
And what percentage would you say? Just around, I'm not asking for the precise percentage, just an approximation. More than half, right?
Yeah, more than half, don't call.
75%?
I'd say that's a fair figure. But you still have to go through the whole process with each one of those.
Not really. They're
You
cut
do.
off at a certain point.
You have to-
You don't spend hours on them with them and say, well, sorry, you missed out.
You have to determine that they're not eligible, and you have to have all these documents to prove that they're not eligible.
Like what?
Like birth certificates, like what wages are they making? Are they getting any money?
But most of the people are not employed, correct?
Most, I would say, probably. Well, some are that are applying.
Yeah, some are, maybe one every 5 months is okay. So, I mean, you're bringing up all these things and they're not real. It's all a timer.
But there's all these variables that are involved.
Yeah, I realize there might be one that's a real problem.
There's more than
The
one.
guy was in jail, he's got a parole record, he can't figure it out. Okay.
There's lots of those too, Steve. I mean, there's lots and lots.
Well, there's not lots, because you don't really give out that much. There's got to be a call system where you don't spend a lot of time. You can throw people off who are disqualified at an early stage, right?
You gotta go through the whole process, is what I'm saying, before you can do that. You can't just say, sorry, you don't qualify.
What do you mean the process? Is this something you cooked up or what?
No, this is the law. You gotta go through the application process, the whole process, and have all your pieces of information.
Yeah, but if they immediately don't qualify,
But that's
You
what I'm
can-
telling you.
you
They
can
just
do it
don't-
right away.
They just don't come and fill an application, they don't qualify. Get all this they don't bring all the information right away, is what I'm telling you. There's a lot of follow-up.
so when you say calls, that you don't differentiate between incoming and outgoing calls. That's just the total number of calls.
I believe so, yeah.
Well, wait a minute, you say you handled it. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. This probably should have been done 2.5 years ago, okay? But, so when you make a call, you make a notation somewhere?
Yeah, we list that, they called, there was a call.
So these are physical documents that exist in the township somewhere.
They're just scratch sheets, Steve, we do each month, and then we take it off the scratch sheet. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm trying to comprehend how this could be.
We got a piece of paper for the month, and we just let's call, and then we take a total from that.
I have a question on page 13, for the general assistance. 2018 to 19, it was 74,000, and the next year was 23,000, and the year after that is 7,900. I mean, those are pretty disparate numbers. I don't understand why they're so different.
What line are you looking at?
I'm looking at the total general assistance on page 13. It was 74,000 in 2018-19. And 2019 and 20, it was only 23,000. And so far this year, it's only 7,900.
Obviously, there was different needs at those times, and more people were qualified.
That big of a difference? It's,
Well, yeah, it's counterintuitive, I agree, Stan, especially during COVID time. You'd think it would be,
If you look back, you know more people qualify. One thing about it is, as a board, we've been cutting the numbers down, okay? But generally speaking, there's not many more people qualifying than what you see right now. They just don't qualify.
well, then why did they qualify 2 years ago and not qualify now?
Well, they qualified, but that's how those numbers go up into your fund balance, okay? You put that money in the levy, you get the money here, it goes out, you don't spend it, we accumulate it. Okay?
Or this is money that was spent, not accumulated.
How would it
well,
spend it?
what do you mean by spent is actually given to ordinary people, right?
Well, I'm just looking at the total general assistance that was spent.
Right.
Yeah.
So, under general assistance on page 13, it stands says, so that means 2018, 2019, the actual amount given in general assistance. Because emergency assistance is quite below that, and it's a separate amount, which is more. So, ordinary applicants received 74,761, right? In 2018-19, according to this budget.
Yeah, that's correct.
And this year, maybe it'll be a little higher, but somewhere under $9,000 will be given out this fiscal year.
That is correct. It varies depending upon what's going on.
Well, what's going on is
In the economy, Steve.
the economy is completely tanked, so there should be far more
Well,
people.
You would think. yeah.
You would think, you would, I wouldn't disagree with you, but apparently they're not applying or whatever, you know?
Because they're taken care of by other welfare programs and agencies, basically is what it is. So, yeah, it is astonishing. And I don't know how to explain it. Because the criterion hasn't changed, right, in terms of who can actually get it. It hasn't become more difficult to qualify.
No, it's not.
There's not.
Has it become easier, or is it just the same? Are there new requirements?
There are not new requirements that I'm aware of.
Are there less requirements?
No, I don't believe there's.
Well, then it's almost a 90% hit decrease with no explanation. I mean, it's unfathomable to me. Okay.
Well, there was a lot of COVID-19 funds this year at various places, and maybe people were going there instead of coming here. That could be.
Yeah, but you get a
Or
dramatic,
the
you get a
stimulus
dramatic.
Well, this was the first year of COVID-19, so, you know.
Yeah, well, take a look at 2019-20. You can't blame that on COVID. Okay.
It varies by.
How did it get cut by 60%?
It varies by the needs, Steve, of people applying. That's all I can tell you. I don't have a different answer than that.
The stimulus.
Stimulus, yeah.
Yeah, well, there was no stimulus in 2019, 2020.
No,
Okay.
but that could be the reason why it's lower this year.
Yeah, but there's already a 60% drop. More than that. What would you say the drop is between 2018-19 and 2019-20?
Number of people that came here to get assistance that applied for it. That's all I can tell you. I don't know why was 2018-19 a bad economic year. I don't remember.
No, it wasn't. It was
Okay.
booming. So was the next year.
It's just that that's the number of people that applied. I can't make the number of people.
Well, that's another thing, that the board can never even review in camera any of the stuff, where the money's really going to. It's all secret. The board is out, even though it's taxpayer money.
It's going to general assistance people.
Yeah, but we don't know that.
It is.
You should want to be more transparent. I don't care if we look at it, maybe the attorney should look at it, and see where it really is going. Okay? I mean, it's just a big black box, okay? And that doesn't exist for any other welfare program.
If you look at the last 2 years, in your analysis, the 2018-2019 year to 2019-2020, that was a 68% drop. Then you look at the 2019-2020 year to this proposed 2021, 2020, to $9,000, that's another 61% drop. So there, and I'd like to know from Debbie or see if there was any change in the rules as far as application. I know there wasn't any change during the COVID time. Was there any change in previous years into the rules of application that might have caused people that went from...
Let me get some explanation.
You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying.
That would have caused that change, I don't know.
Well, we don't have the census figures, but there's been a steady loss of people in the township too. Marginal. So the number of the population of the township has decreased steadily over that time. But, you know, maybe 1,000 people every year.
Well, that would be because the municipalities are growing.
No. That population is included, okay? They're not growing. Illinois lost 80,000 last year. 88,000 total. Well, I mean, this is what a board is supposed to do, ask questions and try to get to the bottom of things.
No, I understand.
And figure things out. I don't attribute any wrongdoing to you, Mr. Adams,
I understand.
but,
It's mandated, there's nothing we can do about it, so I think we should just move along here.
well, I think we should get correct figures for how much is this costing, and we have to have the salary of the supervisor and added into it.
The
Otherwise,
attorney also brought up, you know, he said that he brought up some questions that he wants to come at the answer, why those numbers changed so much in those years. That should be
Right.
answered.
Let me see if I can get some better answers.
He already said he's gonna do that.
that means a fraction of all these other things that are included besides your salary have to be included. The IMRF, the health insurance, blah, blah, blah. Right? If we're trying to get a full view of it. Now, so it seems to me it's at least an extra 15,000. Not that much, but when you're trying to categorize how much it costs the taxpayers to give out general assistance in this township, you need that. So is that other part-time person, or there isn't?
There isn't another part-time person, but we really need one for all that stuff that's going on.
Well, how long you been looking for someone?
We haven't really looked, Steve. We budgeted it last year and we didn't get it, and we should have, but we didn't.
But, well, that means that there isn't a crisis then.
We're just swamped with not just general assistance, and all the work we have to do. So,
Okay. I mean, just say half your time is spent with the road district, being the road district treasurer, okay?
there's not half my time in there.
Well, how much time is it? Just a general
I'm
percentage,
trying to think.
a quarter?
Maybe 10 hours a week there, too, probably.
You put in 40 hours a week regular or more?
Sometimes more, but normally 40 hours a week.
Okay, so 10 hours to the road district is approximately a quarter of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And another quarter of your time is spent with the general assistance.
Mm-hmm. Then the rest is township financial stuff.
Well, wait a minute, what does that mean, township financial?
Not just financial stuff, you know, or
How much time do you spend on the administering, supervising the parks?
Very little, none really. It's done for me.
All right, so you got 20 hours a week to account for.
20-hour weeks is plenty of things that has to be done in the township.
And we're asking, give us an idea of it. We don't know what goes on, we don't follow you, there's no body cam. Okay, so what takes
Some
us
examples,
time?
if we're gonna do something, I'm looking around for the best deal on something possibly, you know what I'm saying? In terms of purchasing something.
Like what?
Trying to think.
Aren't we supposed to be talking about the budget? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, we are, we're trying to figure out what it
This has
is.
nothing to do with the budget.
Why isn't it?
Because his salary is cut and dried. We already determined that.
Yeah.
So what, you know, you're just badgering him for how he spends
No.
his time. What's that have to do with the budget?
It has everything to do with it, because they're trying to figure out how much is allocated to all these other departments, okay? So far, none.
Purchasing paper possibly, purchasing whatever, that's, you know.
Come on. I know I'm putting you on the spot,
Steve, you know, there's,
but this is ridiculous. 20 hours a week, you can't account for it.
I could account for it. I'm doing all kinds of, you know, check signing, reviewing the checks, making sure they match the invoices, etc.
That's what Debbie told me she does.
She does it and I do it. I have to make sure it's correct.
Look, this isn't, Boeing Aircraft Company. There's a finite number of checks, okay?
All that stuff has to be checked. Talking to people about repairs for various items in the township.
Okay.
People constantly calling about this or that.
Okay, what's the last one you did for repairs?
Insurance claims. We just had an insurance claim. There's another one. When
Insurance claim for?
out here on a site out here, somebody hit our fence, and we had to go through an insurance claim to get that taken care of.
You just put in that.
It takes time, Steve. All this stuff takes time.
That was a karma claim, right?
Actually, it wasn't a Torma claim because, well, we reported a Torma, but the guy was responsible. His insurance company paid. There's what I'm saying.
Didn't you report it to Torma?
Yeah, they did.
Then they handle it.
It still takes time to record it and get it in there and take care of it.
It takes 10 minutes to report it.
Everything takes 10 minutes.
You're talking about 20 hours a week.
You know-
You say an insurance claim, the claim, you call Torma, you fill out a form, okay, I'll give you half an hour on it.
Okay, that's
Okay.
one thing.
So that's 5% of a week.
We get the monthly budget packet every month. It's over 100 pages. He's
Yeah,
got
I'm
plenty
working
of-
on that too every month, you know.
Okay.
That takes a long time. Writing the agendas, that takes time.
You write the agendas?
I normally do, yes.
I don't know where this is going. This has nothing to do with the budget.
It has everything to do with
No,
the
it
budget
doesn't.
because they're trying to figure out what the costs are. And part of the costs are salary, okay?
The salaries have already been determined.
It's how they're allocated. All right, you say hardly anything for the parks.
Hardly anything, yeah. But it might come across my desk, they have to go repair something, I have to okay that.
All right, and you don't really do anything with the assessor's office, right?
No, that I do not do.
But in fairness to the parks though, when there's employee issues, you're involved in those.
Correct, if there's employee issues on,
Which you've had employee issues.
you're right.
And
Okay, so this budget that we have, with the admin figure on page 2, that includes all employees except the assessor in the road district. It's all the other employees of the township.
No, it is not.
Okay. Then who else is,
There are parks employees, which is in the parks budget.
yeah, right, so I'm talking about, all right, the admin budget,
It's only the administration, not all the employees of the township.
okay, so that's you and these 2 part-time people, but you only have 1. How many people are in the administration of the township besides you?
Right here, it says 3 and 1 part-time, okay? It's the township.
And what are the titles of these people?
We have receptionist, okay?
Okay,
We have, HR.
does she do reception for the assessor's office too?
She just transfers the call, that's all.
Okay. Receptionist 1, you 2, who else? Debbie, right?
Debbie,
But she's full-time. Right?
she's part-time here and part-time in GA.
Okay, so,
And then we have Terry and.
so when you say part-time there, is she like a half-time person for
Correct.
GA and a half-time for,
Correct.
okay.
And we have Terry, head of operations for parks. My salaries are elected positions.
But where does it fit under this first page, your salary?
Under salaries elected. First,
I'm looking at page 2, where does your salary come in?
under administration.
Yeah, okay. So Debbie's half for administration, half for GA.
Mhm.
Is there any other persons for GA
No.
besides you?
No,
And there was an extra person full-time for GA?
which we cut last year.
And that was done about when in the year? In other words, you basically had a full year without this person.
Correct.
So it's safe to say that that wasn't a critical staffing need.
It was. He did a lot of work in GA at that.
Well, how is this work being done?
We're doing it now, but it's taken a lot of time amongst the people we have.
But that's just you and Debbie.
Correct.
So it's 3.5 people for administration then? Including you.
No, that doesn't include me. 4.5.
So who's the other person? Somebody else in park?
Flo does our insurance and
Does Flo have anything to do with general systems?
no.
All right, so we're down to 1 person now for the parks?
We're down to 2 people in the parks. That's it.
And that's, you denominate them as what? Employee, 1 employee and 1 supervisor of parks, or what?
Correct, there's one supervisor, one employee.
And their salaries in at 313.
Correct.
And except for people in the assessor's office, there's nobody else.
Well, the operation manager, and facilities manager, he's in that.
Where does he come in? Under what?
He supervises the park personnel. And all the facilities.
Okay, so there's 3 full-time employees for parks and facilities.
Correct.
So
So
my calculation is that means 3 employees are earning 313,000?
No.
Well, what does that mean then?
So that means 8 total employees, because Debbie's half GA and half admin.
6, that's approximately correct, yes.
Well,
That is correct.
8 people. And then the staff of the assessor is, they cut one person too, never replaced?
I think they did it.
I realize you're not in charge
I'm
of
not in
that,
charge.
but we gotta figure it out. So can you find out how many people she's got full-time now?
I can tell you how many full-time she has now. 1, 2, 3. I believe it's 6 full-time,
Plus yourself.
plus herself.
All right, and we've covered everybody, right?
Yes.
So there's, at the current time, there's 14 employees of the township.
If that's what you add up between all of them, that's correct.
And there's nobody shared with the road district like there had been in the past.
Nope,
Why was that terminated?
because road district didn't want to carry that person any longer, and so it was terminated.
Yeah, but that only meant they were terminated for the half for the road district. So what was the half they were doing?
They were
for
half in parks and they were terminated.
Okay.
So, Craig, could you please answer that question about the 313? What salaries are involved in that figure?
I can get to that. That 313 is actually revenue. So if you go to page, I don't know, it's kind of towards the end here, page 9, your total parks revenue is your total park salaries is 103,293. So that's a revenue page. You're going to want to go to page 9, which is your salaries, expenses for those 3 employees. So that's 103,293. It should be the very first line item. Mike,
Okay. All right.
So why is the budget so high for parks and facilities versus what it really is? You have down here almost 314,000. But it's less than half of that for the proposed budget.
You're at 13th, 314.
Sorry.
So I can
Because we
understand.
don't have all the final figures in there yet, and we're estimating what may still happen.
All right, so these contractual services are all under the parks, right?
Correct. And also, if you look at the first one, under contractual services there, Steve, facilities, building maintenance, we've had a very low year this year, facilities, building maintenance. And that's not gonna continue. In other words, we had a good year. Something's gonna happen. We're gonna lose the heater, we're gonna lose an air conditioner. Something's gonna happen, so we anticipate it's gonna cost more. If you look at past years, it's been significantly more.
Well, on page 10, for capital outlay, right in the middle of it, is that capital outlay just for the park?
Correct, and it's underneath that right there.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to figure out, are those general capital, when it says 2021-22 capital outlay projects, okay?
Mhm.
That doesn't include the capital outlay, three lines above that, that's just for the parks,
Correct.
the 165,905.
I don't know
So when you say various,
where you see 160, oh, the 1 year, yeah.
so when it says various, could you break that down?
Could be picnic tables, could be purchase of equipment. Maybe we had to purchase a tractor, lawnmower, something like that, because the old ones are worn out. That's what that would be.
So, so what that first number is, the 165,905, that goes to the 218, 2019 actual, right?
Correct.
Okay.
In that particular year, we might have purchased a truck.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, go what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it's 25,000 is in there for parks capital outlay this time, so I'd like to know what it is that you're planning on buying.
I will have to find that out. This is prepared by the parks people.
Okay.
Terry prepares all of this material here.
For the parks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is take the information given to you and put it on paper for us.
Correct. He supplies that for that particular budget.
So, the town hall capital outlay budget, we already dealt with this, right? There isn't going to be the safety glass stuff.
Well, we never, and this is not a necessary, Steve, this is an ask. That what's up there now is just a cheap piece of plexiglass. What they were thinking about was, regular glass in there instead of that cheap plexiglass.
You got $4,000 for one of the notes I've got on that. And you also say it's to keep somebody from jumping over the counter. How many people come here to jump over that
Well,
counter?
no one has, but we're just concerned that someday somebody could.
Well, that's,
I'm
anything
just
can
saying-
happen someday, but
No,
anyway.
I'm just saying for safety reasons, you get people upset with their taxes and.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
that's legit.
those are the kind of things I would not support, but you throw it in the
I'm
budget.
not saying about supporting it, but why is it even on there? I thought the police department told you that what this plan was screwed up.
No, they said that, we were originally talking about a bulletproof glass, remember?
That's what it started, that was like 10,000.
Yeah.
That was a bulletproof
We
glass.
gave that up because the police department said that
But
was.
now we're down to something to keep people from jumping over it for 4,000.
And that's something, if the board decides not to do it, they don't have to do it.
Well, I guess, Steve, why is it even before us?
Because it's an ask if it's not necessary.
It's an ask from who?
It's an ask because the person, the receptionist sitting there is concerned that, what if somebody came out and just hopped over that counter and started beating her up or something, because they're upset with their taxes. You get all kinds of people. I mean.
Well, they should go to the county.
Well,
Because you guys, we charge such, so we only charge such pennies here.
That's got nothing to
Is
do with it. They
is
don't
there-
care, they don't
there's a
care
panic
who to
button,
blame,
right?
they just blame somebody.
I wanna see somebody jump over the counter.
Has it ever been used?
Yes, it is.
I've had times where I had.
The panic button goes where? Cop.
Johnsville Police Department.
You have, you can't.
Did they respond on time?
They responded, it must, you know, it might probably take some 3 to 5 minutes to get there. So.
Okay. Besides these two items, is there anything else?
Well, right underneath that,
Well, no, I'm just talking about the town hall. Is there anything else that
No.
would be a capital outlay project?
Well, he's got a countersink, he's got a.
We'll get to that in a second.
No.
I just want to make sure we're covering every possible thing.
there's nothing else. No.
Okay, now this commercial sink, is there something with the Department of Health?
Yeah, we didn't do that this year with COVID. Well, because we didn't have any people coming here to serve food or anything.
All right, so we got some kind of notice from the county, we should have to do something, or what?
They inspected us and they expect a 3 compartment sink. We only have a 2 compartment sink.
Because this is used for what?
People rent these halls and have food here. Sanitation of the dishes and stuff, it's required.
Well, I'm trying to get to the bottom of what actually happened. So they said you cannot have these kind of rentals until that sink is done?
They said they would, to meet code, they would like that sink to be done. They didn't say we couldn't have any rentals.
Well,
It's a different story.
Well, with food though.
yeah, I know, we're competing against,
But maybe they should have
yeah,
food.
this is another thing where we're competing against businesses. Okay, and I'm a little leery about the township, which doesn't pay any taxes, but actually subsists off them, in direct competition with halls, even halls within the township, okay, not just some generalists.
We did you asked at one time, we did a comparison of rates, and we're right in the ballpark.
Yeah, but it didn't get around the whole problem of the competition with the private taxpayer.
Yeah, but it doesn't help the guy that's out there hustling every day, trying to make ends meet and have competition that doesn't have to worry about competition.
When they said they would like this thing to be done,
Would it absolutely have to be necessary, Steve? I guess I could say no.
all right. So moving to the rec center, I'm just trying to get rid of things now so we can speed this thing along.
Well, Craig, this is part of what my whole push for you
You
is.
don't have to stay, Stan, you can leave. No one's got a revolver to your head.
You can
Making
too.
you listen to things, okay?
If,
Go ahead.
here, if you can find places in our budget to save money this year,
Mhm.
that means you take less money out of the reserves next year. That's my push on you, is that as the administrator for this town, you really have an inherent responsibility to cut everything you can right now that you know could be cut, so that you don't have to withdraw funds next year when you have a shortfall.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
That's why we're looking at this as a team, Mike, okay?
Okay, I agree. And we're not trying to be the hard guy. We're just trying to say, hey, let us help you
Sure.
wherever we can
Sure, I understand.
to cut the expenses so that you don't have to withdraw next year or the year after.
Well, it's also a way to hide things that are in this budget, but then it doesn't get done, and then that money's used for something else. Okay. All right. So you build up these, whatever it was, the 1.4 million. Yeah, well, all right, so the 15-foot breakfast bar cabinet into the rec center, what's that all about?
Doesn't have to be done.
Why is it there?
It was put in.
I think I looked at that.
It was
Why
put
is
in.
it over there?
It was put in by the parks as something to do, but
Is this what they call
we
a
can,
wish list?
we can eliminate it. That's why we're here as a team, okay?
All right, the tables, what do you mean replace 12-year tables? They're 12 years old, is that
They're
it?
12 years old and they probably do need replacing.
Well, they either do or they don't.
They do.
There's probable stuff, it's like,
They're getting flimsy and, you know.
so what happens to the ones they're replacing?
They'd be thrown away.
How many tables are we talking about? 8?
12, it says right there. Oh, I'm sorry, no, it doesn't. It doesn't, I'll have to find out.
All right, bathroom countertops.
Can I go back? Why wouldn't it be expedient to try to find if there would be any people who would be willing to say, yeah, that's in good enough condition for me. I'll give you, $20. Or better yet, maybe have someplace that needs donations rather than just throw it out.
Oh, I'm not saying that was just off the top of my head. We'd probably take it to Habitat for Humanity or
Or
something.
maybe still use it another year.
Or use it another year or two. I agree.
I agree.
If you want to say use them another year or two, we can do that too.
Well, we certainly don't want some dangerous thing to be.
Right.
Well, they are supposed to be standing at a table, Steve.
Well, but we wouldn't want them fall down.
Well, how many tables have I got a card table that for 50 years.
Yeah, but they're
I got chairs in my barber shop there for 59 years.
they're not getting,
But
They're not getting the abuse.
right, they don't get the same abuse.
well, then somebody should be watching so they don't get abused.
So, the breakfast bar cabinet, what the heck is that?
I don't know, I'm going to have to find that out for you, Steve, that was put in there.
All right, new bathroom countertops?
I'll have to find out about that one too, what that was about.
Yeah, well, you're in charge of this stuff, man. I mean, it's down here. If I saw this, I think you made a decision it's a necessary thing.
I was told it was a necessary thing, but let me find out to make sure.
But why is it necessary?
That I'm going to find out.
Did somebody rock the countertops that are there? Or did the health department come in and said these are somehow not up to code for handicap? I mean, what is the rationale for new counter?
I understand that, and I will find out.
Okay. Ballpark repair, $5,000.
That's ball field next to, Mike might understand this, you put ball field mix into otherwise it gets way too hard, the sand and stuff out there. So that's what that's for. And we only do that every couple of years,
When's the last year we did it?
probably a couple of years ago.
See, this is probable stuff, man.
Yeah, there's,
We deal in definite things. When was the last year it was actually done?
Well, obviously it wasn't done last year, it wasn't put in the budget, so.
Well, that's because nobody was using the parks, right?
You're correct, they weren't used.
well, another thing, Craig, here is that it doesn't have to be done even every other year or every third year, because you can literally come in and scaffire the ground and re-level it. So it's not really something that has to be done with new, it can be just redone.
Well, let me ask you about that.
Okay.
I'm not an expert on fields.
In Wonder Lake, those fields are maintained each year by just going in and scratching the surface up, moving dirt where it has to be moved, and then leveling it out as best as possible. And it's been working for years and years and years.
I'm sorry to go back.
I think that affects the water though, too, doesn't it? Ball field mix?
Well, it's not as porous as dirt. Yeah, so you're going to have, you have to level it out or you start getting little sinkholes.
Right, we also get real hardness to the ground too. You don't want
Well, that's why the scaffolding
Okay.
works.
So in other words, it's like
It's like taking a disc
A
on a
disc.
field and loosening it up and then leveling it.
So there's one less person in parks this year than last year?
yes, there is.
Well, then on page 9, there should be concomitant reduction. At the top, salary. And then all those other expenses. What is the security? What does that mean? The second item on page 9. I know we theoretically budgeted $2,000,
Right.
but what was it?
Another good question I have to ask Steve, because this part was not prepared with.
Okay. All right, so is it safe to assume that there wasn't anything in the actual budgets for the 2 years before? There was last year, none of it was used, and for some reason it's half.
Correct, that's correct.
Okay.
That could be a security camera, I don't know, let me find out.
So the IMRF should be lower without that person. That was a whole salary of what, 35, 40,000? 50,000? That was,
No, it was a part-time person, so.
I thought it was an entire person was out from the last year.
There was, wasn't there?
You're the guy in charge of it, man.
There's lots of things, lots of moving parts there.
Craig, I think it was half road district and half park.
Yeah, it was a half.
Oh, that was the half.
It was the half-time person.
Okay.
And you did see the salaries did come down, so.
The IMRF is lower than it was previously.
Yeah, if you look at the year before, it was 6,500, and we're not done with this year yet, so that's why it's at 55 there.
Well, that's a changing rate though too, so you.
And that's another thing, it's a
Right,
changing rate.
Changing rate,
And we don't know what the rate's gonna
we don't know
be.
what that is.
We don't know what that rate's gonna be, so that's
You
another.
can't get that right to the number.
Right, we can't, so you can't get anything right to the number.
All right, so our budgeting last year for the parks was based on use of the parks, right? I mean, that's why those contractual services are where they were for last year's budget. So, what's the game plan for this year?
Well, this year, it looks, you know, we're not 100, we know ball teams will be playing. They've already signed up, they're getting ready to play, okay? That didn't happen last year because of COVID, so that's gonna happen. People have been using the parks in terms of going out there, you know, small numbers of people. I don't have a magic ball, but I would assume once everybody gets vaccinated here, which is starting to happen pretty fast here, I would think by summertime we're back in business. I would think. I can't guarantee that, obviously.
Who's gonna be checking on the numbers, because it's still gonna be regulated on the numbers? Someone gonna be checking on the numbers? It's not gonna be wide open.
No, we do have it regulated right now, and the number of people that can play on the ball teams, et cetera, et cetera. But I would assume, I mean, I would think at some point in time, once most people get vaccinated, we're gonna be open, wouldn't you think?
In Wonder Lake,
I doubt that.
there's
Totally.
virtually no baseball.
They're still not filling up the stadiums,
Yeah.
but, you know,
I'm just for your.
It's
No, I realize
they're
that.
regulating large groups of people yet.
Yeah, right now they are, but we don't know, I don't know if that's gonna continue all year with the vaccination that's going on, et cetera. You understand what I'm saying? I think at some point it's gonna open up.
You have to, right now, you have to plan that there's gonna be some type of regulation as far as I'm concerned. I don't think it's gonna be totally open at the end of this year. All the young people haven't been vaccinated yet.
Well, we have been, in terms of rentals for the halls, we virtually hardly had it. If you look here, there was virtually hardly any last year because of COVID. And people are signing up now for this year with limited numbers, you know what I'm saying? Because
Right, I'm just saying, I think you're gonna be dealing with limited numbers for most of the year as far as I'm concerned.
But the fee's the same, you understand what I'm saying? To rent them, so.
I'm just saying that somebody's gonna, I would think if you get people coming to watch the kids play, I think you're gonna run into trouble if somebody's not regulating those numbers there. Or I think when the teams are coming in, they should realize that, hey, you just can't bring and fill up the place like you did before.
Oh, no, they've been told that and they're aware of that.
And who's gonna govern that? I mean, if they come on our property, we are responsible, are we not?
Yeah, the parks will spot check it.
Okay.
Are we getting money from the county clerk to have the election?
Yes, they do pay us to have the election.
Then why doesn't that show up in cash revenue?
It's in miscellaneous revenue, so.
I'm looking at page 3. Where's miscellaneous revenue?
Other revenues.
Oh, okay. How much do they pay per election cycle? Just, I don't mean to put him on the spot, I'm not the exact number, just like what? Does it,
Couple $100, Steve, something like, I don't, could I check that? I don't know. It's not like a great deal of money. But they do pay.
so why is there such a decrease in that item? I don't mean to skip around, I'm just trying to, it says other revenues, we got 15,386 last year, but now you only got 200. So how did that happen?
That's another question I'm gonna have to look at.
Because the 200 is already accounted for with the clerk, right? The county clerk using it for the,
Correct.
I think in budgets past, there might have been some of this discussion. And if you look at security rental, there was
Security rental was different.
there was nothing, and then it was added in back in 2021, and so there's a 2,000. I don't know if this is it, but there's a $2,000 difference there.
Yeah, security rental, because that's when they rent the hall. If they had alcohol, they had to have security, and they paid $300 for that. And there wasn't any of that last year, and we expect some of that this year.
okay, but
I understand you're asking other revenues.
there's like 14 grand missing. So where did that other revenue come from for this year? Just in broad strokes.
When I go through this, Steve, I look at it, but I don't remember. I'll find that out for you. Good. A lot of numbers here I don't remember.
Because it's quite a big increase from prior years.
You're right, it is. 175, 200, 2,000 some years. Why was there 15,000? I agree with you on that one. I will find out.
So I'm wondering if that's part of the federal money that came in.
We didn't get any federal money, I guarantee you that.
State money?
Didn't get any state money for COVID.
Well, okay, I'd like to know where it's coming from.
I know, I heard. I answered.
No,
I answered your question. I will find out.
So, the town, I'm not talking about assessor or, do the township employees, non-assessor town employees get cell phones from the township?
They used to. We're changing that this year, Steve. Okay. We found out it's cheaper to give them a reimbursement and let them use their own phone than to get phones from the township. But where are you seeing this? That's what I'm asking.
I'm not seeing it, and that's why I raised the question.
Well, there is cell phone under administration. Okay.
Can you tell me the page?
Page 4. Okay.
Okay.
So what we're doing, I mean, obviously the townships, we're going to pay the employees a yearly stipend to use their cell phones because we found it's cheaper than the township, as you can see, paying for the cell phones themselves directly. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but was this talked about with the township attorney first?
No, it was a decision on my part that it's going to be cheaper. So, as an administrator, I feel I have the right to do that.
Yeah, you do have the right, but there's also legal consequences of all these things. Okay, so is there a problem with that?
There's not a problem with it. There is, the only issue is when there's an issue regarding the usage of the phone, and at that point in time, the employee would have to make available information from the cell phone if needed to be, and they'd have to identify the usage. For example, if the phone was used, whether it was texting or calling during hours, office hours for office use, and you get to show that information, the employee would have to then disclose that information to the township. and you'd have to redact or cross out personal use versus non-personal use.
It makes sense, it's just cheaper.
Yeah, okay, but how many people will this reimbursement apply to? Everyone?
And this was just in administration, I believe we decided this.
So what about the assessor's office?
I don't think, let's look at their budget. Did they even pay for cell phones? I don't know.
Yeah, but you're also in charge of that too, right?
I'm not in charge of her budget, no.
No, but I mean in terms of making the decision for the township, that there'll be reimbursement for
Right.
private phones versus
Correct.
township phones. All right, so she's got $4,100 for telephone.
That's right, cell phone I see 1,800. I will have to check on that also.
Okay, so you've got 8 employees for the township that are not involved with the assessor. Are they all going to get this reimbursement?
I'm trying to think if they all have cell phones.
Or just the ones that have?
Just the ones that would have cell phones, that would need cell phones for the township.
Okay, so who is that? The guy in charge of the parks, he's one.
He's one.
You?
Me, Debbie. Flo, I believe, that's 4.
Does Bill get one too?
Bill gets 1. It's 5.
So the receptionist doesn't get one.
I don't believe so, no.
So there's still a missing.
Must be another parks guy because they need
Don't-
to talk
Not
to
the
Bill.
bus drivers, guys? But they're using their own phones now.
Oh, yeah, the bus driver, they're using their own phones. Oh, that's right.
Does the clerk get one?
Do you get a phone? No.
I have my own personal.
No, he doesn't.
Well, so is something being done with the employee handbook about this? Because it seems to me that there should be something. Mr. Militello, would you want to?
Employee handbook would need to be updated to reflect the reimbursement policy relative to the usage by those who in fact then receive it, so that it's clear from the get-go that information used on their personal phone is that of the townships when it's used for township business.
Okay, we'll have to have the attorney look at that.
Well, the existing people that are being changed over, and they have to have some kind of acknowledgement, right?
Well, they have to acknowledge the new policy, yes.
In writing.
Right, they'd have to sign off on accepting it. And acknowledge
Well, we did have a sign-off sheet for them to accept, you know.
But they would have to know though
Yeah,
that
but see,
those
this,
phones could be turned in for someone to look at though, right?
that's why.
Would they have to, you'd have to notify them, right?
Okay.
Because you told me that the same way when I switched to my, my personal computer, that if something came up, I'd have to surrender that for somebody to look into it. So I would think that whoever got those phones, and that they would have to realize that if they're calling and maybe doing something about the election on their phone or whatever, so they would say, let's take a look at that.
We'll
So they'd have to surrender that,
the
correct?
sign-off sheet, yeah, we'll have.
They'd have, I guess the first thing would need to happen is a revision of the handbook policy relative to reimbursement on the phone.
Okay.
And then the second, those you'd want to redistribute to everyone, so everyone has the same new updated version, but then they'd have to sign off on receipt of the check as well.
Okay.
How long has this been in effect?
Just started for this next year.
I mean, April 1st?
Yeah.
Or January, April 1st?
Where's the budget or the expenditures for hiring separate lawyers?
Well, we just put it under legal fees, the same as we've had so
And
far.
where is that?
We put it under legal fees. You're gonna put separately. This year, I think we're gonna spend close to $600 to $800, so by the time we're all done.
5,800,
68, I believe.
6,800.
So we budgeted that again for the following year. Oh, actually, I believe it was more than that. Some was taken out of contingencies because we didn't have enough in legal fees.
So on page 4, the consulting service, what was that for this past year?
Yeah, it's Facebook, and we had something else. Oh, the, when we had to go to those phone meetings because of COVID, to allow people to phone in, that's the other part of that. It was like $129 and something every time we have a meeting.
All right, well, can you break those up into what they specifically are?
Those are the only two items, Steve.
Right. So it's mysterious consulting service. No, anybody looking at this could think, well, what the heck is that? This way it's all nailed down what they are.
You wanted to say like a subcategory? Just put it, can I just put it at the end here as a note?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I back up to legal services?
Mm-hmm.
What did you say the number was?
68,000.
68,000 plus there was some taken out of contingency, so that would be the total would have been quite a bit.
And so the 2021, you had 68,000, but then the actual was 49,157.
It's not done yet, we gotta wait, there's still bills being entered right now. See what I'm saying?
Well, we have one more month for billing, though, right?
March is not all in yet, do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Right,
So what is that number?
I don't have it in front of me, but I know it is.
Oh,
It's
so
gonna,
if you come out, then that is a number you're gonna need, is you've already done that?
right, I figured that's
Okay.
pretty close.
Okay.
What's interesting is when we became on this board, the legal services doubled,
More than double.
more than doubled.
And a lot of that came from your electors.
Well, if you care to recall, Mr. Majewski, the supervisor sued the township.
You look
Okay.
back and see what happened.
All right.
It came from the challenges from the
We
electors.
didn't tell him to do that or any of the other people. Okay, and then they got drubbed out of federal court and state court. So don't put all of the legal expenses on us. We wouldn't have had to spend anything if the road district didn't try and countermand
Excuse me,
the
there was
board.
$25,000.
Excuse me, Dan.
Put him out the door.
Yeah, go ahead, throw me out. Try it.
Yeah, so
Try it, Bob.
It's up to the supervisor.
when you're out of order,
He
you
runs the
can't.
meeting, I don't. I can suggest.
We need him here to do it.
Physically try it.
The prerogative
You gotta mouth 'em.
of the board with invalid orders, defending the board's action against crazy suits by the road district commissioner, all these things.
If you ask the attorney, you can get that number of all the legal bills that would come since we've been on the board that would come from the electors.
The board is not
Court.
taking any frivolous action. I don't think other township boards
The
can
number's
say
there.
that.
All right, new point, it's been done, so.
I have a
All right, why don't I
question.
get those answers to you?
I'm going through the numbers on what you handed out here, and we have, there's no number 6, and
I'm sorry,
between,
what page are we on?
well, I don't know what page, I'm just bringing up
Yeah,
the
there seems to
numbers
be a
at the
missing
top
six.
of the packet for each page. There's no number 6, and there's
I don't think there's any. Okay, go ahead.
between 9 and 13, there's one missing. I don't know which, because 9 through 12 is not numbered, so I don't know which one it is, but one of those, there's one page missing, so did we get all the information that we're supposed to get, or is it?
I believe you did, I think it's just a misnumber in the pages here.
But why is the assessor on page 7, why isn't there a reflection as to her pay being cut?
Because her pay doesn't get cut until next
Oh,
year.
right, you're right.
Could I make a suggestion that we go on to the end of our agenda, because I have to get something
Okay,
coming up
let's-
later on and
Okay.
continue this meeting?
Why don't we, you mean motion to adjourn at this point?
Well, no, we have to go through board we got board comment,
Okay.
public comment, and then a motion.
Well, we have no public comment, we moved that to the beginning.
Okay.
Is there any-
I do have one thing, is Dan, I'd like to, before I go, would you just give me a copy of the minutes?
I gave it.
I know, but I want you to give me a copy of yours here.
Oh, sure.
And then, and also from the records, so I want a copy of the minutes and who signed that sheet, just give it to me before I leave, okay?
No problem.
Thank you.
And just one thing on page 5 that just screams at me. The Mchenry McRide program
We're no longer paying for that.
and the reason.
They stopped charging townships to do that. I don't know why, but I do want to put a reservation there. I have not received a bill from them yet, so that may still be coming.
Well, can you find out if there will be a
For
bill?
the last year, I will find out.
Can I make a comment? If there is a bill gonna be coming, we need to put it in there.
We need to budget it, so yeah, I don't know if it's, I'll have to find out. I would have thought I would have gotten it by now, but I have not.
When does it usually come?
I can't tell you, Steve, normally they were done previously in the previous, before the year ended normally. That's why you'll see there's been nothing spent, because they haven't sent me a bill. They changed the policy, they're no longer charging.
And they've also expanded coverage in Mchenry
Yes, they have.
Township to everybody, regardless of age. How much is it?
How much is it?
Does it cost?
It's so much a mile. Like I don't know, $1.50, $1.75, and then it's so much per mile after that or something, after so many miles.
Isn't it more like there's a flat fee and then if you go over a certain mileage?
Right.
Then it's added on.
Correct.
But we're still renting the buses, right?
We're only renting 3 at this time.
And that shows up on what page?
Doesn't show up there, it's in the electors. That they budgeted it.
So there's no elector's budget?
Yeah, for the buses.
Are we going to get a copy of that?
Sure, you can get that.
Why didn't we get a copy with this? We're still in charge of that money, right?
Well, I assume it's something you're not approving, but I'll put it in there.
Wow, that is cold, Mr. Adams.
I didn't mean it to be cold, I just.
That is really
I
something.
didn't mean that to be anything, Steve.
Well, how much money is in it?
Only $50,000.
Oh, there's more than that.
No, there's not.
You're telling me sitting here today
Yes,
that there's only $50,000 in that?
yes I am.
And that pays for what? The rental of the buses,
Rental bus.
the gasoline used?
Yeah, the gasoline was, we did keep good gasoline figures this year, it was much less than we.
Because nobody's using it. So
No, but I mean-
downturn.
Can I make a suggestion that whatever the budget is, that it be included in the budget so that when it gets approved, it's
Sure.
included in this document?
Sure.
So that we can see the line item?
Sure.
The board can see the line item.
Right,
So the salaries for all that is included in that budget?
it is. And that budget's only till July, because it cease to exist after that time.
Does that mean the phone reimbursement stuff is included to those employees? They're employees of the township, right?
They are, I believe so, yes.
How many are there?
There's only 1 full-time and 2 part-time.
And how many buses are actually running?
There's normally 2 running, and 1 is a reserve one, in case one breaks down or something, you gotta have a reserve.
So is the insurance for that coming out of where?
I'll have to look if it's in there, it should be in there, so.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I'll double check that.
But because we don't have it, it's hard to say.
I agree with you.
So with that said, I'll make a motion that we end this meeting and
Can I make one more
we
comment?
have to pick a time for the next meeting.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Before, I get a second on it?
Can we have the meeting in 2 weeks, because next week is a busy week, there's the annual meetings, and then we have our meeting coming up, so
I don't want to wait 2 weeks.
I'm kind of busy that week, so.
I don't want to wait 2 weeks.
I'm in agreement with Bob.
Well, you don't go to the annual meeting, right?
Yeah, I do. The annual meeting I do, I can just give a short report.
How long will it take
What do you
to
mean?
prepare?
To prepare? Couple hours.
I
I
suggest
still
we
gotta
meet
go, I
next
still gotta
Monday.
go through and get all these answers straight, it's gonna take me time, I just would ask.
Come in with what you can. I think we should meet in another week. There's a lot to cover here.
All right.
I think it would be nice if we had a week to peruse.
I'm not gonna
this
be able
packet.
to give it to you right away, that's the problem.
No, but I'm saying to look at what you've given us today,
Right.
and if there's things that we see that we didn't see today, we can address it at the next meeting.
But I'm not gonna be able to give you the other packet till close to the meeting, because I have to go research this stuff.
All I'm asking is that you give us some time to look over the figures that are in this packet,
Oh, you have that packet, you
Yeah,
understand?
right.
Okay,
so that if we have a question, we can raise it
sure.
at our next meeting.
Can you highlight changes too? That we've agreed to some changes today. Can you make sure those are in? And highlight it so we can.
Sure.
So can we start next Monday at 9 o'clock?
Can we make it 9:30? I meant to make it 9:30, and somehow,
I know, well, that's what
somehow
I
it got confused somehow.
So 9:30 is okay with me, but somehow they.
I would like to meet
it was
next Monday,
posted at 9.
get this over with.
Okay.
So it'd be at 9:30 next Monday?
Okay,
Which is the 12th.
is that correct? I don't have a calendar.
Yes.
So then I made a motion, so you just.
I'll second.
Okay.
And then the clerk will have those other documents requested too.
What documents was requested from the clerk, please, for sure?
When was the last time there was a truth and
Truth and taxation.
Oh. Okay.
So roll call, or you got a second, you have a vote on it?
Okay, let's have a vote. All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None heard.
Thank you for leaving this copy from me again.
Adjourn at 11:30, 11:31.
Right here it goes up. Oh, it's okay. Pardon me?
I just notated the time adjourned.
Oh. I'll meet you at the
Oh, I did want to point out,
Okay.
not to this Rooster. I should introduce you, because you were ready for this year, so. Julie, you just, we got back to the calendar of the usage for every vehicle. In every department. We'll give it to you.
I'll see you. Take care, Bob. See you, Craig. See you, Steve.
Okay.